Hi everyone. So today I have the cheeky chappy Shaun St-Amour. I've been loving his stories and life since I've seen him on my feeds from about 5 years ago through the
Yeah.
COVID times, same as Mark and all the rest of the team. And well, Shaun, who are you? Where are you from? And let's go from there.
All right, my friend. Well, I'll try to take my Canadian travels and keep it short. So my name is Shaun St-Amour. I was born in Ottawa, and I'm very much a Canadian. I'm actually like 14th generation Canadian. So quickly, my dad was working up the corporate ladder with Ford Credit, which is again, one of the top three car manufacturers here in the U.S. in Canada as well. And so we went from Ottawa to Edmonton to Burlington, which is right outside of Toronto, back to Ottawa, and then came out to the west. We're Coquitlam, which is a suburb of Vancouver, and stayed there for my teenage years. Went to the University of British Columbia in the wood products processing program. So I learned when a tree is cut and made into lumber, furniture, and homes. And during my university years, I got to travel for co-op. So I got to work in a sawmill in Prince George, a furniture company in the Okanagan, and then did some nerdy science stuff at the university. And then when I graduated, it was that choice of, do I go work in a sawmill or do I go and work in the most value-added wood product, which is a home? And that was the choice. So I got to work in a prefab company in Richmond that at the time was actually the most automated factory in North America. So I had all the German equipment. It was just, we're building 7 to 12 homes per day, putting them in a container and shipping them off to Japan. Did that for a few years, and then got into construction, working on big high-rise towers here in Vancouver, but they were concrete. And so I was like a wood guy in a concrete company and was involved in quality control and project management. And then one day my dad and I decided to start our own construction company, and we wanted to get in to building sustainable homes. And so we did that. And then, of course, we kind of lost track of our passion and hired a whole bunch of employees and then got jobs just to keep the staff going. And, a few years into it, we're like, Dad, we don't like each other. What's going on? And so we pivoted and slowed down and really got into kind of development. We wanted to be able to do prefab, construction, and development. And in Vancouver, there's a kind of a traditional single family home called the Vancouver Special, very boxy. And we did our first kind of sustainable renovation to that, which is like the first time I actually did my blower door test. And I think back, that was about 12 years ago when that first Red Door of Truth came out. And we got down to like 1.5. And I mean, like when you think of
the first go.
And we had like no idea. And this is the first time. I mean, I used spray foam. This is the first last time I used spray foam on the house. But at the time, it was what I thought was like, the good air barrier product. And now seeing other liquid applied air barrier products, I realized, okay, I definitely need to look at different things. But at the time, I mean, it was taking something that was like 7 or 8, air changes down to 1.5 was pretty exciting. But just the whole concept of just getting to more sustainable materials. And so then we bought another piece of property, and we're going to do a duplex. And unfortunately, the architect got too busy working on bigger towers. So then we weren't able to do that project. COVID hit, and all of a sudden, my in-laws moved in with us, and we did things differently. And I got an opportunity to start teaching PassivHaus. So when I look at my PassivHaus career, I've been going to Europe since about 2003 to look at, mass timber and prefab stuff. But 2011 was when I first heard about PassivHaus. I took my PassivHaus consulting course in 2014. I didn't take the exam because I was going to work with an architect, and so I didn't have to worry about it. 2017, I heard about the tradesperson course, so I took that. And within about 6 months, I was actually involved in teaching the tradesperson course here at our technical school. So in about 2018, then I got asked by another company to be involved into being a product consultant. And I really just liked teaching builders about how to build better. And then in 2021, then I got asked to go back to building. So I tell my kids all the time, I get to play with Lego. In Vancouver, though, it's like $1 million Lego sets. But it's really exciting to be able to figure out problems with air barrier strategies and be able then to teach that to the builders. So in Vancouver, we're really lucky that we get the BC Energy Step Code, which is policy that's in place to move our industry to building passive house. So by 2032, our codes will be, nearly passive house levels. Right now we're at step 3, and it's really great to be able to in a sense, learn one step code, get there, figure out how to achieve it, and then be able to teach builders about the problems and the lessons and the challenges we've had in that whole process. So currently, I'm the VP of Operations at Clay Construction, and most of my time is on site, working with our site supers and making sure that we're hitting our budgets and our schedules, and finding problems, and then teaching our trades and our specialists how to make sure that they're not screwing up our air barrier, and we can get some really good scores. So yeah.
Well, you basically just done the whole podcast. You've answered all my questions. Well, I might as well get my coat and go. Sure.
Yeah, no, we can dive in deeper, but I mean, it's exciting. Like when you look back at like all the homes that you get to live in. Like, I mean, I think you've lived really like in a couple of homes yourself. Being able to move
fourth or fifth home in fourth home in about 6 years. Fourth home in about 6 years.
Yeah, and so when you think of like all those homes, like I did a review once, and it's so interesting to look at like single family homes to quadplexes to townhouses to single family homes, and you look at like the layouts, and it's just interesting about homes. And so I mean, the real pivot point is I was your typical Canadian trying to play hockey, trying to get a hockey scholarship, didn't make it, went to university, and I thought, you know what, I really would like to get an architecture. And I went to a bunch of architects, and they're like, you know what, Shaun, this wood program you're in sounds really cool. You should stick to it. And so I've always had this, love for architecture. But when I saw the prefab, it really kind of brought back my, roots of playing with Lego. And so being able to, figure out how to build better and do, better things. And then that whole balance of form and function, and making sure that the function is kind of there first, and then you try to make things look good, was a little bit of a good turning point in my career of just sticking from one thing to the next.
But how do you balance everything you do? Because so everyone, and even I admitted this before we come on, like, yeah, I've listened to what you do, but how do you do it all? Because I see there's different projects you're on every day. Are they the construction ones? Are they different people's? Your day to day, Shaun, what is it? A mix?
No, it really is. And I'm lucky that again, my schedule can be flexible, because again, it's like life balance. And I think we get brought up, and it was all about like the work-life balance. And I realized, when my dad and I had our company, like we loved what we were doing, and then it became life balance. And then it was a question of how do you just balance the family, the work, the personal stuff, and just make sure that every day you're trying to be happy. And I mean, I think that's a bit of like the challenge we all have is just, how do you find happiness every day, and then make sure you're kind of continuously working on, improving and doing better things, and then setting, some really high goals. And so I think, playing competitive sports, and having a bit of a personal drive early on kind of like helps set a bit of like that attitude and tone of just the basic is not good enough, that we need to keep doing things. And I also think working at a company that was all about quality control, I really learned about kind of the evolution of industry and how we evolved and changed, and just how you put in your systems and, your Six Sigma and lean kind of manufacturing techniques. And you kind of add that to your personal life and be like, well, how do I improve? And, what are some of my goals, and what are my BHAGs, and how do you, manage, that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden you end up just meeting people like yourself and Mark and Bob and like other people like that are similar.
It's actually freaking me out now, because I keep looking at the character behind you.
Hey, and and this is what I love. I mean, you talk about the balance is being around people that want to have fun. And I mean, like, hanging out with you and your brother and having these characters at our conferences and I mean, for example, we could have brought our own characters home, but the fact that Aaron's like, hey, you know what, you take mine, I'll take yours, and all of a sudden now when we go to our job sites, we can bring, Aaron Jones with us, and Eric can bring, Shaun St-Amour with us, and we just have fun with it all. And I mean, that's like, I think the real part of the balance is just keep having fun and knowing that we have to change the way we build. And the thing where I really looked at homes as a career was, kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, I'm not really good at being a doctor. I could do education, but for me, like, shelter was always like the biggest thing of like, how do we build really good shelter? I say my new phrase is like, let's supercharge our shelters, because as we need to be in our cocoons, especially in Vancouver, where, recently, we've learned all these new words of like heat dome and atmosphere river. And this year we even had a bomb, cyclone, or like all these extreme weather patterns. How do we ensure that we can be, create shelters that give us that comfort and health and resiliency?
I know it. Well, from an outside view as well, from what you're doing, I love the way that you and Big Dog, the guy behind you, are teaching the way you are teaching, because you're actually having fun with it. So I think that gets lost sometimes in Passive House and Net Zero. And I always say this on everyone. I love Passive House and Net Zero, but I always think there's a class divide. Same as with it's very politics driven sometimes. Left and right, same as what you've got in the States. The way you guys do it, I do love that, because it's barriers down. You have fun with it. You're actually showing the younger generation it is actually where you can actually do this stuff and have fun, and you can do the social media stuff. You do have to work. You do have to get your hands dirty and things like that. And that's another thing what I like about the meetups we have, or the shows we have in America compared to the UK, because I think there's a big difference in who's driving some of the stuff in the UK, which is more technical office people, where in the States you've got a lot of hands-on people, which I love, because one day they're at a show, the next day they're on a roof, cutting a roof in and demonstrating what they're doing. I love that kind of thing, and we need more of it here in the UK as well, because I would definitely get more people in.
Yeah, you know what? I was really lucky. So my dad and I went. So we typically go to the Holzbau conference in Germany, which is the wood conference that now is in Innsbruck every early December. So I missed it this year. I do plan on going to next year. But in 2011, I took my dad to come experience it, because I'd been a couple times, and it blew my mind of just the way that people were talking about collaboration in this particular dinner. And of course, in Germany, you always mean like at the pub. And 4 of the biggest prefab home builders were sitting there. And first we were shocked that these businessmen were actually talking to each other. Because in America, like in North America, forget it. Businesses are in your silo.
That's it. They don't talk to each other.
There's no sharing. And all of a sudden they're swapping stories. And this one gentleman's like, oh, you need that part? I've got it. He calls his mechanic. The mechanic didn't have it. So he called the manufacturer, Hundiger, and Hundiger made the part and like sent it to him the next day. And he's like, just put on my tab. And we were just like, what's going on? And they're all were just like, it's about collaboration. And that was, I'd say another pivoting point in my career, when it was like, you know what? That's how that's going to be a bit of our ethos as a company and in a mindset. And since then, I completely agree. Like, the scale that we need to improve at, we can no longer just stay in our own little track and do our own thing. We need to grow. We need to grow together. And the only way is through collaboration. And then again, if you can have fun at the same time, and when you look at kind of the compete level is as you're moving forward, you don't look behind at, number 2 or number 3, because it doesn't matter. It's like all of us, we're like the knights of the round table. We get to sit down and share and swap stories and work through our challenges and our successes, and we all grow. And at this stage, we need to grow faster.
We definitely do. And there's no harm in having fun with your competitors as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know what I mean, Alex? like doing that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's about the pie. Our own slices will grow, but if the pie grows, again, there's more opportunities for all of us. And I mean, the best part too is that's where creativity gets to kind of explode in our own kind of individual, desires, and creative, can flourish. The fact that we can learn and share and figure out, what's great. And like how I build a house might be different from you, but ideally, all the same systems. And so you talk about, the PassivHaus movement and embodied carbon, electrification, and renewable energies. I mean, that's why the zero carbon buildings and that phrase is something that I've been attracted to, especially in the last 6 months, because it's not just about looking at your materials or looking how well your shell is. It's a combination of everything. And once you look at that approach, there's no disagreement, right? I mean, we're all trying to build something, but at the end of the day, I think the zero carbon building, phrase is really great. And the fact that, you can get different certifications along the way, but really, that's kind of like the holy grail of building. And so what I've kind of developed for myself is like, my passion is resilient prefab passive homes. And, each one of those I could talk all day about, but the fact like that, those three kind of phrases has just kind of been able to get clarity and focus of what I want to educate, what I want to learn, and then how do I share and do that is kind of given me a bit of my own, path of what is of value to me. And I want to inspire people to build it, and be able to show them how to, deal with those details and be able to get there. So, and then be able to, on the road, meet fun people like yourself. So it's been great.
Well, I like that. If you were to build your own passive house, and I know you're going to say you'd use intelligent membranes or
Yeah.
as the air barriers, but what would your build up be? What would the build up be like?
Well, I mean, first off, in Vancouver, again, we're lucky that we live in such a beautiful city, but density is an issue. So, of course, it wouldn't be a single family home anymore. It'd be ideally some type of multiplex. And even now, we talk about, of course, it'd be prefab. But with, the price of land, it would definitely be, 3 or 4 units, and hopefully, eventually my kids might be able to have one themselves. But so it's funny. So I'm climate zone 4 here in Canada, and so we're a mild kind of coastal climate here, and so most of Canada would do great with a double stud wall. Here in Vancouver, you can get away with like a 2x6 wall with 2 or 4 inches of insulation. And so typically when we would look at building a house, I typically tell everyone, start with kind of PassivHaus levels, R20 below the slab, R40 walls, R10 windows, R60 to 80 roof. And of course, I'm in American numbers, so I'll let your audience do the conversion.
You values for English people. So
yeah, exactly.
They put all the materials together.
Yeah.
The insulation value, you value, and you can add them all up.
Yeah. And so the interesting part though is all of a sudden, you can't get an R10 window. And so now you need to kind of get like a triple pane window, maybe around R7. And then with our climate, we get to about an R32 wall, which, typically is, 2x6 with 2 or 4 inches of insulation. And then you get into the building science. And this is where, Joe Stieberg and his perfect wall, we know that if you can get 1 inch of exterior insulation, you've reduced the dew point on, your outside plywood. And because we're in an earthquake zone, we do need exterior sheathing to manage, shear forces and structure to deal with earthquake. So, all of us in our homes, of course, we need to manage safety. So we got to make sure the fire prevention is taken care of. And typically we're sprinklered in Vancouver. But I tell you, that product that you have for fire prevention, boy, that is very slick. And so then you're managing your, the building science with the membranes and layers to ensure that water can go down and out. So like a 2x6 with 2 inches or 4 inches of insulation is pretty typical in Vancouver. And we'll see more of that too, as we talk about the codes changing, and we're needing to, put a little bit more value in the insulation values versus just airtightness. And but yeah, luckily when we look at the entire assembly, we've got our fresh air machine, we've minimized our thermal bridges, we've got good airtightness. And I think as a builder, I mean, if you talk about key things for a builder and key takeaways, is the architects and designers will take care of a lot of the PassivHaus principles, but the builder really is involved in ensuring that the air tightness is taken care of. And even though, the architect and designer might design the red line test and ensure that the continuity is there, it really comes down to the builder to ensure that different materials are connected and stuck together. And a lot of times, builders are exceptional framers. And some builders are, more like construction management companies where they delegate all the tasks. And so ensuring that your air boss or, your person making sure that the continuity is there is really tricky. And they really need to make sure that the sequencing is done properly and that the continuity is taken care of. And for some people, they get focused on their specialty, but air tightness is kind of its own specialty now. And
an airtight champion on every job. An airtight champion. You need someone on every job.
Yeah.
I love them people. They're the biggest arsehole on site because every trade fears them.
Yeah.
Plumbers, because they love doing their pipes through the wall, electricians and everything. The airtight champion has to make sure that they're all coming together and collaborating, and they actually understand that you can't put a hole through a wall, or you can't just tuck it in there, and silicone won't do, and paper membranes won't do. Okay, so what does 2025 hold for Shaun St-Amour? Apart from a divorce, if you keep carrying that.
Exactly. I know. Aaron gets to stick in the office. He doesn't come in the bedroom, even though when we left Austin, both Aaron and Shaun had to go snuggle with Mark. But so first off, I recently broke my ankle in hockey, so things are a little slower. But of course, that slowness gives you more time for reflection and thinking and planning. And so now we're wrapping up 2024. December, our good friend Mark talks about December being, yes, it's a great month to celebrate our successes that we've accomplished in the year, but it's also time for a lot of planning. And so, the last couple of Decembers, I have done a lot of planning, and you can see there, I mean, like that's the calendar that I used last year. And I've got my big ass calendar coming, and to be able to visualize every day was fantastic this year. To be able to manifest and do some really great things with my career, with and even with family and friends was pretty exciting. So as I'm planning 2025, I will say there'll be a lot of things like that are repeated. Some of the shows and conferences that you and I got to see each other will be at again, because again, like, the fact the world is so global, even though I'm, working on local initiatives here, seeing your friends that are doing the same kind of challenges and efforts, to see them in, and in our different conferences, it's fantastic, because sometimes you feel lonely, every day you're grinding it out, but be able to step away and see your friends and swap stories of just, hey, we're in the same trenches, just in different cities and different countries.
Go and buy loads of cowboy hats and stay out.
Hey, and like I said earlier, right? Like, you work hard, you play harder, and as long as we rest harder and have that balance, then it all works out well. But I mean, that's the effort that needs to happen, is being able to just grind it out and learn and be able to take those lessons and be able to then share them. I mean, this is the biggest thing, is like, if you learn things and you don't give it away, like, our good friend Stephen Basic and Joe Stebrick, that have learned, all this building science and all this knowledge, to keep it to themselves is, again, it's cruel. So being able to learn how to, learn the language to then be able to tell other people and figure out what connects, is really exciting. So so we'll be I hope to attend a lot of the same conferences and shows, just to, again, learn new products, right? You talk about, the innovation that's happening in construction, for an industry that is one of the worst industries for innovation. It is starting to get better. Construction is starting to involve more technology, more science, and being able to get to those conferences is great. Other than that, I mean, being able to build beautiful homes that clients want, but also creating, more comfortable, healthy, resilient homes, and being able to do them faster is, of course, what I want to learn and what we want to excel at. Retrofits is something that we've been talking about, but being able to see, prefabricated retrofits is something that I still want to learn more about and see how we can do more of that in Canada and North America, because like I talked about, our codes are changing. And so, by 2032, which is coming fast, like it's now 8 years, and all of our homes will be built to Passive House, yet we've got all these old buildings that need to be fixed. So I think retrofits is going to be a hot topic in 2025. I also think, teaching people like the finer points of airtightness. Like I think people generally get, okay, continuity, but what happens when a detail doesn't get fixed properly and you got to manage it.
We need to show the fuck ups more.
Yes.
That is something we need to show, because that's another gripe I have when we see these Passive House projects. I know we're wrapping up, but jumping back in, we see the projects, everyone says, oh, it was wonderful, everything went marvelous. And you're like,
yeah,
it didn't quite go that way. What went wrong? And if we shared them stories more, as long as we fixed them, it's not
totally. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to get to your area scores you need to. I mean, ideally, it'd be great if you got there the first time. I mean, it's pretty exciting when you turn on your blower door and all of a sudden you get your, below Passive House levels of air tightness, and you're like, okay, let's celebrate. When you don't, you're like, okay, let's, use the tools, right? Use your thermal imaging cameras, use your smoke and foggers to find leaks. But it's also exciting. Like what I love about it is the fact, like you take the opinions and you throw them outside and you're just working on science, right? Like, to get to Passive House, there's certain levels and certain numbers you have to achieve to get there. And there's some really interesting, reasons and data that proved why those numbers are worthwhile. And so when someone says, oh, I got to Passive House, and you're like, well, did you get your air tightness score? Did you, get your energy scores where they need to be? It's pretty exciting that it's not just this, put your thumb up and say, hey, I got a sustainable home. No, it was sustainable because you hit these metrics, and being able to model. I would say the other thing too is this year, my biggest focus was learning about mechanical systems and creating really efficient mechanical rooms. So I will kind of continue that in 2025 of how to fine tune and work with more of our mechanical specialists to see how we can create better systems. The fact like that we're looking at refrigerants and kind of moving away from different refrigerants and heat pumps to CO2 based refrigerants and trying to figure out the ROI of those mechanical systems. That's been pretty exciting this year for myself, is because I still get building plans that clients, or not clients, but designers want radiant heated floors, and a Passive House, radiant heated floors are just overkill. And being able to then offer them cooling with a heat pump versus an air conditioner. So this big switch, moving away from radiant floors and air conditioners to heat pumps, and then being able to develop mechanical rooms that are super efficient, that are also, all electric, has been a really cool learning curve for myself. Again, I was really working on air tightness for the last years. And after I realized, okay, I think I've got air tightness, there's some finer things air tightness, but I want to work on mechanical systems. That'll still be kind of a fun thing to continue learning and improving on in 2025. But ideally, retrofits, mechanical rooms, and you never can learn enough about air tightness.
So just for everyone else, mechanical rooms, you want about the ventilation, the fresh air we breathe.
Yeah.
The most
Yeah.
important bit in the building before you look at any of my products or anyone else's products.
Yeah.
Ventilation is the first thing we look at, and that
Yeah.
does need to be looked at. I mean, the systems are changing, and you're right about the underfloor heating. I've got a PassivHaus standard home over there, and we've got one line on downstairs, and I've turned the rest off. Even though my wife keeps pressing the up button, it's not going to do anything. It's on 23 degrees. I've capped them off.
and that's the balance. But you know what's great about a PassivHaus though is, you know, the typical, say, disagreements between, you know, spouses about that fine line of temperature, it gets less in a PassivHaus because the entire, you know, area in the room is more balanced when it comes to heating. You don't have these like cold areas, or, you know, your toes are cold, but your core is warm. And you're like, okay, well, how do you know, put on sweaters and put on slippers and put on a toque, like, you know, all those kind of things. It's just nice that you don't have to worry about that fluctuation in a PassivHaus.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay. Well, that was our first quick dive into Shaun St-Amour and what he's been up to and where he's got to now and what we're going to look at next year. And I can say this wholeheartedly that I can't wait to share the next year's journey with you guys. You're an amazing group of people that are doing these podcasts with me, and just getting to see who you are. And for anyone out there, if you follow Shaun on Instagram, he's very active on there. Very active now, coming up on LinkedIn. I see a lot more on there as well. And I think just like the rest of us, if you want to reach out to any of us, just reach out. We will respond back. If it's not the same day, we always respond out. So if you've got any questions or want to learn, we're always happy to answer back. And Shaun definitely does, because he loves it, lives and breathes it.
Yeah, I know. I do try to do like a 24-hour, you know, return policy. And so, you know, again, if it's around the world, maybe those 24 hours change, but I'm happy to respond and help teach people. And, you know, even if it's just a quick, you know, piece of information to just move the education forward. Sometimes they just need to a contact or, you know, a quick answer, and that stuff doesn't matter. It's those longer conversations that sometimes take a little longer to fit in, but I love them all. And like you said, like, love what we're doing in the industry. And again, love what Intelligent Membranes is up to. This year, though, you guys did a fantastic job in marketing. Love the new action figures that are out there, our net zero heroes, and just the stuff that you guys are bringing to market too. I mean, it's not just the air barriers and the vapor control layers that you guys are getting involved into. It's fire protection, water protection. I mean,
it's
you guys are,
mate. Well, I say with the air barriers, fire has been a massive point that we've been trying to push forward. We've got a lot of regulation changes in Europe coming in March next year. So a lot of these so-called fire protection products lose their title on that, and their time products. And we've got some out on the market already in the States. Passive Pebble External, our fireproof product there, and we've got Fred that's coming in hard. The marketing this year was good. The marketing for next year is going to be even better. We're coming in a lot stronger. We're ready to go.
Well, I look forward to wearing the belt again at one of our next conferences. And again, I wish you and your family a lovely holiday here in 2025. I know you, my friend. It'll come out with a bang, and we'll be doing some great stuff. So thank you for your time today.
Love it, mate. And I love you.
Great back at you, buddy.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Bye-bye.
Yeah.